Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Alundra. This first room looks familiar, probably should, because it's the same first room that we visited back in Olin's dream, except that left door is open, at least for now. Of course, as soon as we get in here, a cave-in blocks both the path going forward and the path going back, but we only have the ability, with our bomb, to open the path going forward, despite the fact that we used the bomb to open the path going back in the first place. This doesn't really make sense, but I guess we have to make do with what the game gives us. Can't hit this switch either. We also can't go into the right generator room because the door is locked. We'll have to find a key to that later. These enemies are turtles. They're basically the first legitimately threatening enemy in the game. They do 2 points of damage on contact, and their fire breathing does 3. They take 8 hits to kill with a knife, and they're only vulnerable when their heads are extended in that particular direction. Thankfully, you can stun lock them against the wall, because they repeat their fire breathing animation from the start every time you hit them in the head. So you can just basically herd them into a corner, and kill them one by one, moving around to dodge the attacks of the other ones when applicable. Bomb this floor. The dungeon's pretty straightforward, even though you have a lot of options, at least so it seems. At first, realistically, you tend to only basically have one open path to you that you haven't already explored at a given point in time. So all things considered, it makes a pretty good sort of introduction to the game's larger dungeons. Moving over here, we meet Lyman, the first of the 3 miners that we were tasked to save, and I would love to help you, buddy, but we're paralyzed by the cutscene right now, so I guess I have to watch him die or something, I don't know. Any minute now. Walk over and save him, please. For some reason, Lyman seems to know Alundra, even though he's never met him before. We did obviously meet him in Olin's dream, but it's a little weird. Maybe there's like a collective unconscious in this game, but it isn't really explored. Remember back in Dual Hearts, if you happened to watch that Let's Play, that there was actually a game mechanic that you could cross over from dream to dream, and people who were very close had connected dreams. That doesn't seem to be the case here. And no, we don't have a good heart. We stood and watched him die. Now we have the key to the power room. But we're also 0 for 2 saving miners if you include Olin into the conversation. But I guess now that we have this key, he's more or less useless to us from a gameplay perspective. So, I guess we can't lose too much sleep over that. Move on, try to save the other 2 guys. This little area, for some reason, is rich in treasure. It's got 2 gold bars, because as we all know, that's how you mine for gold. Pretty standard video game logic. And we get 2 herbs. As I said, you max out on herbs pretty easily in this game, and we do in fact max out on herbs in this dungeon. At some point, I did go back and pick up that 1 treasure chest that I passed by back in the first episode, and it did in fact contain an herb. So that's 1 more that we have, towards the maximum of 9. So we have the generator key now, so let's return to the first room, go back in here, and makes use of that hint that we picked up back in Olin's dream. We knew that we would be making use of that fairly quickly, that a lot of people didn't expect it to happen basically first thing as soon as we got into the dungeon. Left, left, right, left. You cannot turn the generator back off by hitting the switches, which I guess would be kind of interesting but pointless. Just a piece of trivia. Moving on. Now we can ride the minecart. And pay close attention, because as we pass by, this actually jogs that rusted switch to the closed position, allowing us to access that other switch if we happen to go back. Even though we don't touch it at all, which is kind of weird. 2 more doors to visit. Let's take the left one. This is one of the dumber moments in this dungeon. We can ignore those 4 turtles. They're not really worth fighting because they take so long to kill. We basically only visit this room for this cutscene to happen, allowing us to see this cutscene and block off the path of that other generator, but opening a hole in the other wall. And no, we cannot move through that little area where it doesn't look like rocks fall. And no, you cannot bomb them either. You can only bomb rocks that have been approved by the game engine. But it gives us a clear path to our next objective, which is to do whatever's in this room. And this room, of course, is substantially more difficult. Well, not this particular one, but this path, unknowingly, is much more difficult than just walking up to the generator, which we could have done if we hadn't caved in on the left side. Let's go grab these boxes, try to top up our health. Now here's something I learned specifically in this room, and I actually learned it until I was watching the video again for a second time. The bomb, and this is the first time I actually take damage from it, does 5 health points of damage if you stand too close to it. And I actually came very close to dying in this room, not realizing that I had taken such a big hit from my own bomb. I actually didn't know until then you can even take damage from your bombs. See, look, I'm down to 3 points of health from taking the 1 point of damage from those falling rocks. Yes, your own bomb does more damage than a gigantic boulder falling from a cave-in on your head. Moving on, there are 2 paths for no particular reason you can take through this room. It's actually kind of hard to see that you can get through the one on the left side, and yes, now I notice because the little alarm goes off that I'm really low on health, and of course I do have 9 herbs, so I might as well use 1 now, because I'm not going to be able to pick up the next one I find otherwise. There's a long, twisty path with very slowly falling boulders, and a short one with very rapidly falling boulders. Again, the boulders only do 1 point of damage, so if you haven't been an idiot like I was and taken a hit from your own bomb, you can afford to tank a little bit. Here's something else that I'd sort of forgotten about until now. If you throw a crate into an enemy, it kills most normal enemies in one hit, including the turtles, so hopefully I'll have the opportunity to take advantage of this a little bit later on. There is an upcoming combat with the turtles where we do have boxes available to us, so that'll be nice. Anyway, turning that generator on restores power to the next set of tracks, so we can now use this switch to access Shaft 1. Remember that when we were back in Olin's dream, effectively, they were still in the first room of the mine starting their project, so does that mean that the rest of this stuff wasn't set up by the actual Inoa Village miners? I kind of like to believe that they belong to the Murgg. You know, considering there were like 1 million monkeys and only 4 coal miners, you'd think that since we basically ran directly up to the Murgg at that point, they had just gotten a lot farther than this, and we were sort of invading their property. Clearly they can speak, so they must have some form of intelligence. I don't know. Anyway, here we go. This is where I finally remembered that you can throw boxes into the turtles to kill them. You can also throw the bomb, but it doesn't go off right away unless you hit them directly square in their head. I hadn't really gotten the hang of doing that yet, but I'll show that off in a later combat. Hit that switch, and it actually took me a while to notice this, but it opens a door to the right, which is basically the only place we can go from here, other than back to the start to hit that other switch that we sort of knocked the rusted switch open to get in the first place. Anyway, back up here, and over to the right. No, not up. Nothing up there, at least nothing we can reach without the minecart. And we're 0 for 3. That's a dead body, or at least it appears to be a dead body. Well, I'm telling you it's a dead body, because this is post-commentary. And apparently the Murgg could only spare 3 soldiers for this time. This is the first scripted battle we fought that wasn't against 4 Murgg. You know, whatever. Let's go check up on whoever this guy is. I forget. Jalen. I forget if he was the one who was a jerk to us in the dream. I think it was Zane, but I'm not really sure. And again, we have his key. So for the most part, it doesn't really make that much of a difference to us from a gameplay perspective whether or not he lived or died. But I guess we feel kind of bad. I mean, seriously, we are 1 for 4 at this moment in terms of saving people who we've been tasked to look after. We basically saved Wendell, and that's it. Until these guys basically just for their drops, because I am still very low on health from taking a little bit of damage in that last fight. And now the only thing left to do, now that we have the other key from this area, the second of 3, is to return to the start and hit the switch behind the rusted gates. So we have to backtrack quite a bit, really not much to talk about right now. We actually do have to hit every switch and go in full reverse. Thankfully I believe this is the only bit of strict backtracking we have to do to this extent in this particular dungeon. And the game in general is fairly good about preventing us from doing this. Can't jump off, can't just jump out of the cart and hit the switch. We have to actually go back to the starting room. And here we are. And I've been here about 3 or 4 times already, counting the dream. I'll be back here one more time to actually take the minecart down to the room below us. Of course, the carts, like everything else, are blocked by the handful of rocks that we can't blow up with our bombs. Makes a lot of sense, right? No, it doesn't make any sense at all. I'm enthusiastic about this, can't you tell? So here we go. Yet another new room. Now that we've finished with our backtracking and hit that switch. This is the door over there. The cart's to ground level that we need. Ground level, of course, means that we're fairly close to actually being able to get back out of this place. Alright, and this is the inter-dungeon save point, or the intra-dungeon save point. All of these contain pads that you can use to refill your health and your magic, and a save point, and inexplicably seems to also consists of an actual room inside the mine itself. Now that we've taken care of that, what's next? Alright, so we have to get up here and get this rock out of the way. We of course can't bomb it or push it. We also have to hit this switch at some point, so we'll do some platforming. It doesn't necessarily look like you can jump on top of those posts, but of course you have to get across that switch and drop that block. We'll need that to get across that gap a little bit later in this dungeon. Next, we have to push this minecart and jump on top of it, which allows us to... No, that's not how it works. Push this minecart and... Sigh. push this minecart and jump onto one of the adjacent platforms, and then... Okay. So, one of the biggest complaints against this game is that it has an absurd amount of extremely precise platforming. No, you cannot just jump on the rock and onto the platform, and that would make it much too easy. Anyway, one of the complaints about this game is that it's absurdly precise platforming for how annoyingly vague the positioning of the character is. Of course we can push that rock. We can't just push the other rock out of the way, but we can push that one off the platform. Makes sense, right? In any case, there's a lot of platforming starting from this dungeon on, and it's probably the most difficult thing to reconcile in this particular game. There's a reason why most of the 2D Zelda games don't have a significant amount of platforming, if they have any at all. And this game is basically a shining example of why that is not the case. Basically, we don't really need to get on the minecart like we did before, because we can just sort of jump onto it, but yeah, there we go. Anyway, due to the perspective, there are a number of jumps, especially along the vertical axis, that you don't necessarily think you can make at first glance, but you sort of know that you have to just because it's the only way you can go. See, there you go. One toss from a bomb, as long as it hits directly onto their head, will kill them instantly. In fact, this works on a lot of enemies you wouldn't think it would work on. I believe it even works on at least one boss. If I have the opportunity to show it off, I'm definitely going to try to get that on camera. Get another Florida bomb. Alright, and we are 0 for 4 on miners. So, well, might as well give up and go home, except we can't, because we're blocked from exiting the way we came in, so I guess we can just keep moving forward. Yeah, somehow I took a hit from fighting these stupid slimes. It's because of the, really sluggish controls in water. If you see me jumping a lot, it's because Alundra just doesn't move very fast in water. But, you know, he moves his normal speed if you jump out of the water. Yep, and his fingers... an awfully intense description of dead body. And of course, Zane doesn't even have his key on him. The key is in a treasure chest next to him, so Zane is even less useful to us than most of the other miners. Sigh. We're doing awesome. Nothing left to do now but make our way out to the other end of the dungeon and see if we can't do anything else about sort of resolving the struggles the rest of the villagers are facing right now. So, all we can do here is take this minecart. First, we have to use the key to unlock this gate and switch it, because as it turns out, if you read that sign, in its current state, it will make you do a U-turn back to where you started. So yes, well before that main was established, does a U-turn that turns you 360 degrees, and then you walk away and find the key. Oh man, intense minecart riding action. I really feel like I'm in danger of getting hit by those rocks and taking 1 point of damage. Well, here we are. This is one of the last rooms of the dungeon. We're done finding keys, as we have failed to save all of the miners. We have just one more large jumping puzzle to solve. By puzzle, I mean you have to realize that you can actually make this jump right here across that chasm. Again, due to the lack of depth perception in that direction, those jumps are particularly difficult to make, and took me a lot of takes to get that one correct. There's a chest, which of course we need more than life itself, so let's just jump across that. Other gap. This is, yet another example of pixel-perfect, aggravating... Okay, I don't know why I jumped into that guy. I must just really suck at jumping in this game. It isn't just the game. Part of it is definitely me. Alright, there we go. The platform this chest is on is actually lower than the place you're jumping from. That's our Gilded Falcon, our 5th, the one for this dungeon. Moving up here, we obviously have to find one more minecart, because there are definitely some tracks here that lead to an area we haven't been to. Let's head in here. So this is the message that you get if you open an item that you're already carrying the maximum of. So we are missing some health. We might as well just use an herb and pick this one up, because I don't believe we'll ever be back here. Such that we'll need to leave an herb behind for us to pick up in case we happen to be low on health during like a future trip through the mine. Moving through, I believe this is the last trip on a minecart we're going to be taking in this particular dungeon. Pretty straightforward, especially compared to some of the other stuff we had to do. We didn't even have to use any junctions. I guess it was just there to give us the herb in case we needed to restore our health, but even that's a bit useless because there's a full health restore coming up very soon. Push the lower level 3 times, hit level 1, lever once, and then shake the engine up a bit in case it doesn't work. So yeah, just like everything else in this dungeon, a lot of it is rusted shut. The solution to this particular puzzle is to jump on the engine. I guess you have to do it more than once. I believe it's 3 times in total. And the first one doesn't count if you jump on it. That'll make this platform work. Weirdly, this platform is actually made up of 4 separate platforms, and the edge gravity that holds you onto it still works, so you actually can't walk from one corner of the platform to the other, you have to jump. It's a little strange. Full health restore here, and I guess it's time for the boss battle for this particular dungeon, and no, we cannot just jump back out again. Freaking Alundra and his stupid water controls. Can't believe he's foiled by a puddle. Oh man, that's one big freaking monkey. This is Zazon, the leader of the Murgg. And this is our first clue as to the overarching objective of the game. There are 7 crests that apparently Melz has commanded the Murgg to acquire, and they already have 2, which is kind of weird for a game of this type. Gee, I wonder if he's a boss. I wonder if he has a spin attack. Spoiler alert. I'm using sarcasm. Apparently it's Zazon who's been causing all the cave-ins. He certainly has the capacity to do that. Nothing to do here, though, but to kill those 4 Murgg, since he happened to leave them behind. Again, this is our 5th, I believe, scripted combat against exactly 4 Murgg. And they're exactly as easy as they was before, and they fight during using the exact same attacks they've used in every other combat we've had against these guys. They even drop items like normal enemies. But, for some weird reason, the game considers it to be a boss combat. All the Murgg are dead. Yes, all the Murgg everywhere. No, that's actually a total lie. There are like 1 million Murgg left. But that's about all we need to do in this particular dungeon. The tunnel that Zazon made leads out of the dungeon. And that was good enough to earn us our 12th life vessel. So let's head out and see where this leads us in the next episode of Let's Play Alundra.